19 May 2023, 70. Conversation with the International Criminal Court and also any other institution, organization, organism with legitimacy to apply consequences, especially against the organized crime on institutions. Of course, that an organism is much more difficult to present as a institutional crime, except if it's the founder. Now we will talk serious and break the ice. We will have, please, a member at the International Criminal Court and player with legitimacy to understand the case and apply the consequence. You take a look on Brazilian Constitution, on Article 5, we had the guarantees and basic rights that can be suppressed in any circumstance or violated. And the article, the item, the clause 9 says that the intellectual activity is free. The clause 10 on Article 5 says that you can violate the intimacy and the private life. The clause 11 says that the house, which is the place you live, can't be violated and no one can do an entry without permission of the keeper, I would say, the person that lives there. And on the clause 12 says that you can't violate, there are no hypotheses or circumstances, even by judicial order, the violation of data. And the clause 13, it's free. The activity to do, including the intellectual activity, all those guarantees are violated. And the clause 12 says that the right as property is a guarantee. If you violated all these, including the intellectual activity that is consolidating the asset, you also violated the guarantee as property by institutional order, as abusive procedure, which are a logical sequence of crimes, violation, and institutional violation perpetrated by orders and signature of specific heads. Not here you will observe the same names on crimes on Budget Brazil, including the relational association with corporate peers in a transcontinental level, because they are against this effort and this effort is against the crime. I don't talk with them by this, but even presenting things like this, I had been suffering so much interference that I can complain with the offender. So we had a post that was required to be suspended by issues that are kind of, critical, I would say. And this happened before any situation that I consider the issue critical or have the request, I in general suspend the post or the activity. But if the violated data can get an entry on my cyberspace, my private living, as an analogical violation of my rights, of course that will got in touch with critical issues, will broke secrecy as judicial secrecy in the United States, on Europe, and the industrial secrets, the business intelligence, and the core business of activity, including things that you are doing, the development, the creation, and even the foundation. I can, for instance, set the foundation on something, all legal, sourced at my rights, and the conjunctural and the environment. By the misperception about all circumstances, will jump on it. And since they jump on it by misperception created, and their own will as criminal purpose, of course that I will use this as a cluster of intelligence against the crime, presenting the offenders as person to the courts in the way I did. We will check that they used to suspend is generally saying that it suggested as police a prison boat to host international criminals. The international consequences are affordable since the local criminal activity considering the institutional corruption act had the action in a transcontinental level or in an international level, as observed that the communication, financial, economy, health system, and others. The tax and freedom. In the United States, the property is a basic right. You can defend and protect your property. If a criminal got inside the apartment and are making public politics, of course that will do the overtaxation maybe, and you can do the evasion as to defend, to sustain your property, the integrity of your right as freedom. There are entry lines that we are not gonna use. You can force me things, right? And this is the general idea. We have the substantial value on a paycheck operated as negotiable instrument used against institution that must do the regression until the offenders. We had the segmentation, the regression, and the offenders must be on court even if they are a judge or a ministry or a chair at the federal bank, a CEO, because indeed they are criminal, misguiding institution by criminal purpose. We will observe that the reciprocity is an international police, and you will check that, for instance, the default against my paycheck and my complaint, considering the value as limited ambition until the total money diverted from public budget Brazil since 1988, it's about 33 trillion. I can research this and have the coverage inside the limits flowing this as a factoring, which is a financial operation, at this negotiable instrument rolling with a clause which is the anti-crime budget and purpose to do not support the criminal activity and use, for instance, as an investment system at the antitrust justice Europe, USA, since not related with the organized crime, to suppress and choke the organized crime as activity running institution and the future of mankind, which was at least going to a terrible disgrace. We observe that the anti-mafia police is that a new mafia or something formed through this institutional corruption will commit crimes and do the records about the crime that they committed. Of course, that will affect everybody, including the criminal organization as traditional mobsters and criminals that you know at your society, at your court, that sits beside you, and your silence, of course, that is a concurrent element to this kind of problem. Not only the new mafia, but the mafia as something that goes since the ancient time. The regular police, 3 boats on a neutral area as jurisdiction, and the order to bomb at least one boat must be made by one of those 3 boats. We had 2 patterns as distribution, which it's posted. You take a look, and it's kind of play bargain in an international neutral area as police, and this boat will probably remain, or these 2 boats, it will be by circumstance and the interest of the event and circumstance. It suggested to wipe out crime families by the mafia group before getting on court, because the new mafia is the institutional corruption and you couldn't dismiss them, so they are inside but also as criminal activity, and indeed they do not have protection as legal protection to do the criminal activity and procedure inside the institution, and not be protected as criminal to perpetrate all things against the criminal organization to set something new which belongs to their own interest and purpose. For instance, they will offer and do the plea bargain or turn everybody in to keep their chair or their abusive privilege of themselves and relative, for instance. It's the amount of capillate on Italy, it's the administration of the judicial system to allow the access to the justice. And the justice is not the judicial power as we told, it's something amplified. In business, you have this as lean management. USA, Japan, the Toyota use this very well. And we will check another thing that the policy about salary payment by gender, by color, by creed is a bullshit. Because it doesn't matter who you are, if you do the effort properly and things straight legal, you will deserve the payment. The workforce is based in the effort you do and apply to achieve a goal. But this kind of issue as gender, salary, and equity by this is always set internal turbulence and problems, and in general go to a court as a labor court that has international corruption at the judicial power and put the business activity in a serious risk. We observe that the salary is equal, salary is deserved since you do the work as workforce under the same condition and circumstance. If you are a cocksucker or did a blow job, will get a chair, but it doesn't mean that you are at the same level of your peers. Kind of music, you are always in the game but don't deserve to be a player. And we will observe that these are some notes. We will check that our effort is considering the structural gaps on concurrent interest, which is the prevention of fail. But the fail going on logical gaps, it's the element that indeed you do not need exchanged markets or different of idiom or something like this, because it's a gap. It's as told a pretty Brazilian numbers. And of course that this is a problem on your microfinancial activity, your markets or your entire conjuncture. The gap will be filled by something. If it is something doing this record is the institutional crime, it's a criminal record as you observed in Brazil, violating all things since the conjunctural number until the subsidiary activity as record, criminal record with payments on department to change the cases, including murders. If this go all around without control, we probably wouldn't have the success we did on show business phase 1, 2, and 3, considering the laundry scams and the overpriced payments to athletes that are holding money and projecting themselves as a bank because they have a bank account in each one as player or star, having a Ponzi scam related with sourced the activity as diverted money from companies and treasuries as national treasury. No surprise if you had the treason of state power, including the judicial power. This was one of the 4 quadrants in global scale to get the pandemic mobilization of crime scheduled as global events, crossing through international area and arenas based on local crime associated with setting the global threat in global scale. You please take a look at the board and you will check that we operated this model alpha and beta, can be east and west. We set the Mintzberg model with 2 staffs as groups that will kind of do the observation of things, and the crosscut between alpha and beta as east and west will set A and B minor as systemic conjuncture or mobilization. The crosscut using the same pattern here as Mintzberg organization or pattern as institutional observation and control, repressive because you failed at your internal control, will allow to get the A and B, for instance, as department or median structures, and the changing
changed color as medium structure, which can be unveiled by the silence or the gap, considering the behavior and the institutional behavior, proved as logical sequence of procedures. One procedure abusive as logical sequence of crimes with signatures. And we will check that always have the risk behavior as human resource, which is sourced at the hiring process and also the contracts, having the density as failure or risk with exponential behavior projected. You will have the combination of alpha and beta, which is the conjunctural risk threat. And this is a trend proven at the consumer market trending to menace the mankind. These are, kind of this case, all elements we have here, the general lines as violation and things suffered, as you could observe, and the accusation we did and proved not only at the International Criminal Court is a group of accusation, and it's there, it's posted. We will wish you to do the best decision against the organized crime, since you have the capacity to show and apply the consequence, or it will be an empty decision without the effect as dissuasory police. And of course that we will probably have in other players, because your lenient behavior is the same thing as the behavior without any kind of substance or concrete result, and will be replaced by something with more strength at the institutional arena to apply the consequence against the threats and menaces that you are able to understand but unable to fight back. We are the victims. Have a great weekend.